Day again. And thank you so much for taking time for being with us. It shows that art is alive and it's really about the communities here. And as much as we've always hoped that we can take art to the people, it is indeed in the people.
We are hosted at Gauteng Arts Academy. Had an opportunity to be taken through. It's my first time here, and I think I'm overwhelmed by the work that is done. And I think it are aware. And between 1980 and 1990, there was a serious, the ground was beginning to swell because people understood this Release Mandela campaign. We all know that. It were the arts that were at the center of that. Now I'm making this reference because each and every historic epoch has got generations that must be relevant to that period. Okay? Generations must be relevant to a particular period. We can't exist for the sake of it. So I think, if you ask me, this period we are in and this conference that we are in must be written as part and parcel of these epochs. Anyone who says no must raise their hand. But anyone who agrees with me must clap, please. Moment. It's us who can mess it up. It's us who can make it work. But we're in a historic moment. And that's why we must record it.
Papa ile matendo wana baki na maslamu kujogo shushi kuona kali. Papa itendeka kama maslamu na jogo uti. Osema kwamba wana jogo ndani serikali ndio jogo shushanga. Ondoa kabisa wana jogo. Ni watu sasa wana jogo timu genera osema kuona kali. Hii mali bana kusema osema jogo. Mkono la kabisa jogo shushanga timu. Bana wana osema kuona kali kama tumana mtare pia mtare mikare kwa. Papa iko bale jogo ikazidi toto mnogo.
Something that I always, when I was looking at the questions, there's a certain question I think that as community art centers, as we're trying to revive them in our communities, as well, is how do we make them sustainable? Because a few years ago, I used to work as a field worker. And in America, as a field worker was, we would go to different community centers. For Mamelodi, they used to rehearse for a place called Biawon. There was a man, Baraka Brakushka, who had a production company and he used to train Bana in dance, in theater, in music and all these things, but he was never funded. And he kept on doing it every day. There was something happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There was always something happening. About 4 years ago, I went back there. He's no longer there, but there's no one in his place. But I'm also understanding there's a need for us to survive as artists.
And then too, somebody who get that way because I think there's a story that there's a sentiment that everybody has with regards to the art centers digitalizing because they lack funding. Quite a lot of people, who have been in the arts for over 30 years, and nothing is...
My name is Mpomlepo. I come from a history of community theatre in South Africa. In the early 90s, I was a member of the National Association of Community Theatre for Education and Development, NACTED. And as post-1994, we were organized in that form as a country. And we worked with other associations of community theatre outside the country. And we were funded by international funding for most of the years as members of community theatre. So my background in community arts dates back as just before 1994 and also post-1994, being involved in community theatre and in community arts. The first document is the policy document for the development of local arts and culture centers and programs by the National Department of Arts and Culture. This document, everybody should be able to have access to it. I know it's not here, but it's a document I would like to quote a few things from it. That's a very important document guiding the sector in terms of the role of government and what government
has outlined as a policy in the development of arts and culture, community arts development. We want to accommodate everybody. And if we are going to accommodate everybody, how do we keep growing the pool of numbers of entities that must become part of permanently funded? And I will tell you why I'm referring to that this year we have only 15 entities benefiting out of 3.5 million, which makes it that it's been shared, it's very little. If you can imagine 15 entities and you imagine 3.5 million. But the actual budget that we had submitted to the National Department was 20 million, the one we submitted early in the year. And then we were told to cut it down, and finally we had agreed on the 3.5 million. I think the next step of that funding, if anything should happen with it, is that there should be what we call a matching grant. If the national give us 3.5 million, we should be able to engage the province to match that particular grant so that we are able to raise the budget to accommodate more entities, able to come out with something going forward. Which also, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Sepp, which also secondly goes into the members of the government that might not be. We're not going to blame them. The invites could have reached them on Wednesday or Thursday. So, because everything was rushed, then we need to be honest with ourselves about that. Now, every conference and every meeting that you ever attend has got what we call a status of it. And the status is very important so that people understand what meeting is that. So this particular conference, I will say deliberately, did not carry any mandate, it did not have any status articulated about it. So two things about the meeting we have today. So if you look at the present agenda, the agenda says to you, we are having a consultative conference stroke elective today. So literally, that's the kind of a status we will adopt and say we are having a consultative and elective. Now, if you are going to host a consultative and an elective conference, there are a few things that you need to be able to answer. And I'm happy that the program director has mentioned those things. One is the question of representation and vetting.
Here, Mr. Mulabo mentioned something that the policy development of art and culture from the Department of Soil made a problem now when I read this, and I worried about Mashian, what kind of the federation are we looking for? The policy of South Africa is a federation. The constitution of South Africa, the one that governs South Africa, does not have a federation. It only has a unitary state. A unitary state. That's why they say unity in our diversity. The preamble of South Africa says united in diversity. So when we have a federation of Nimba, even a OICA, the sea federal organization party go nowhere. Why? Because some police for South Africa, I asked people who sign a federation. Now, sport, we need a David on mobile by involved in sport. By calling the federation in sport, at one was cut by it, but we have count there. That is why more than now for art, the National Art Council
are going to fail over and over if we are going to depend on a certain individual, which is government in this case, to lead us. Because I was under the impression that when we talk consultation, we are not consulting the department. We are consulting the ground, which is the artist in the ground, to go and launch our sectors from the corridor that will go to, I'll give an example in Joburg, we'll go to Joburg and launch Region A, Region B, until Region G. Therefore, that was going to guide us to send the right delegates in this, because we are going to get all the delegates from those kind of regions to come in this forum and have that. I know funding may be a problem to found those people because you need to travel from point A to point B. But geographically, when we elected people from those regions, which is corridors. And from those corridors, we can be able to...
We need to be honest that over time, we start as artists and end up as politicians.
Because as artists, we're not organized. And I think even like we're missing ourselves getting to collectives, the forum, the different, we actually getting ourselves organized. But then my problem personally has been there's so many organizations, there's so many forums, to a point where and when we artists from the community, we don't even know who you consult when you have a certain problem as an artist. Right now, the Community Arts Industry Network. So my understanding would be maybe it's the provincial structure. And I'm also realizing there's people from different forums as well. But then I also wanted to understand what is the relationship of these other forums that go local with the Gauteng provincial, with the Gauteng Community Arts Industry Network. Because just like you said, Mr. Program Director, when they go under to our government, when they go bid their opportunity, they do it in the name of the creatives.
It's a concern. You know, when things good happen, I want to be straight on the point. You know, what is it? When artists, such things, I called them, last time, I'm administrators who are killing us as artists when these things are happening. These opportunities, facility, a corner, I'm finding what is on this program, but opportunity. One thing happened into our district, and I think like it as a leader. Something happened, opportunity, I apply, then this program in the corner and trying to push is just like that. I want to see them and they are pushing it in this wrong. Artists, we need to stop these things.
Being able to address all those challenges that are there, and that can include people who are physically challenged. So there is a tendency of undermining people who are physically challenged in our art centers. And then the federation that has its own subcommittees that can be able to go and relate issues from the ground level.
And then empowering of artists as well. We spoke about training, workshops and capacity building as well. That's what we should be focused on. In a sense where most artists enjoy the fact that they are artists, but then the business behind the art, they normally don't look at it. So that's where the capacity building part comes in. And then regional leadership and knowledgeable. You are not going to be leading people, you're not going to be leading artists, the artist struggle in a proper way if you are not knowledgeable about the struggles as well.
Or should be assisting in linking up with other federations or consortiums on the ground. So the programs that we're looking at, we look back at the foundation when we were at the market lab, because we concentrated on 4 commissions, which federation will also have to prioritize those commissions. Looking at alternative spaces, looking at the education
type of needs, We need a federation that educates and that shares proper and accurate information at the proper and accurate times. We need a federation that allows us to access facilities within our communities, corridors and regions. We need a federation that is led by creatives, a federation that allows the creatives to govern, because one requires creativity to.
Thirdly, we said we need to influence art centers' policies. We've got a problem of our policies that move is the problem. We said we want to influence in terms of the policies, provincial and regional. Surely by taking when it comes to with my policies when it comes to funding and other things. So that's what we wanted to do. My roles and responsibilities. Why?
The other thing is, by end of May, the regions must have developed what we call regional programs and budget it and present it to this committee that we have agreed that it will do the work, right? So identify what we call centers of excellence in your region. For an example, in Tshwane, we have one now, Bukamoso, that has been adopted to be developed. Identify another 2 for next year so that at least the pool of regional centers of excellence is growing, so that those centers can be able to be funded to run as centers in your region. And budget program for the region and also budget for those centers and submit those budgets by end of May. What will happen with the existing committee? The existing committee must be able to meet now before end of April, which is the 19-member